All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Psychics live stream. I like doing Psychics Live because here we are, two psychics coming to you from each of their own homes, uh, making the best out of the pandemic situation. You know, you really got to do what you
All
can.
right. Hello,
Oh,
everyone.
I'm hearing an echo
Psychic
here.
Live.
Turning it down. It's me. It's me.
So, yes, I have joining me here my friend Kathy. Um, She is live over in Canada. I'm here down in Texas. So we're just, working out the small kinks and things. So we can come to you live, talk, chat, do some readings, um, and just see what we can come up with. I really, I like having you here, Kathy. So thank you for being here. I always think we generate a nice little energy between you and I. And as we were talking before the show, I really wanted people to see what it was like to have a psychic friendship. I feel like that might sound a little strange to people, right? Maybe they don't really know what that would look like or what it is, but in my thoughts and theory, it's interesting to have two people that do the same job or something similar, to network or create a sense of community, right? Um, but I think with psychics, it's a little bit more interesting because there's all these different layers to the way that we connect and communicate and interact. And I think it's really interesting. That's something that I wanted to share with everybody so that they kind of saw what it looks like. So we get to have,
Just
go
say
ahead.
I love with you as well. Like I mean, whenever I get a chance to work with you, whether it's through live stream or whether we're doing the podcast, whatever, it is always such an amazing
Is
experience.
good energy, good information that comes through. The connections are always awesome if we're giving readings. It really is cool. I like it. And
Yes,
I think there's something
absolutely.
to be said about that. Um, our own personal energy kind of mixing together, working with other people. Oftentimes, we've found, when we've given readings on shows, um, that the way that information comes about, we always discuss this usually after the show, um, where we are picking up on the same exact energy, the communication of which could be the part that's different. But also, what's different is that based on, I would say, our experiences or areas of expertise, different information can come through, in the way that it's even received, perceived, and then communicated. It's a different process for everybody. So usually when we work together,
Yeah.
stuff kind of comes out and then they compound and add on to, the full flavor of the reading, which I always think is pretty cool.
It's like layer upon layer upon layer, which we're receiving, and then you're able to connect all of those layers to create an actual picture of what it is that is coming through.
Exactly.
I love it.
I think that's really beneficial for clients too and people getting the readings because they get multiple sources, and
Mhm.
probably arguably more information than they might have if they were just with one person. So I always think it's cool.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. It's really interesting because when you have people that are sensitive, intuitive, psychic, whatever you want to call it, the interesting thing is that we all receive information differently. Mine usually comes within images, or I hear something, or it can channel through, and you receive your information on a whole different spectrum at times, although adding in all of those elements as well. And then it's like sometimes people don't like. I have a very what's the word, blunt way of communicating what it is that I
Hmm.
see. I'm just like, boom, okay, here it is. This is the layout. deal with it.
Right.
Right? And you always have this amazing way of communicating, which sometimes I'm jealous of simply because of the fact that you can communicate that in such a beautiful manner. And but somehow those two elements really work together and they really create the image that we're both
Yeah.
receiving.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's, I think communication has been very natural to me at an early age. You know, my mom said I came into this world talking. So I feel like it's been a nonstop thing. Um, but I think it just, for me, it comes from a place of I just want people to understand as much as they possibly can, you know, with whatever I'm communicating. And if I have to turn my talking or language style in another direction, you know, I do have the ability to do that. And that brings me to a point that we've talked about before, which is, you know, it's great to be psychic and to have intuitive information, but it's just as important to be able to communicate that. And like you know, what I really like about your style is that you are able to just kind of relay the images or messages that you get, like it's almost like a full uh, channel where it just kind of comes out, and you don't really stop yourself. And for me, my process is a little bit different, where I have to, when I get the information in, then I have to interpret or understand, you know, exactly how it relates to the client. And so it takes me those extra steps. And I feel like, you know, that's something that I envy with you, and that I should keep learning to do, is to just allow for, you know, almost like a psychic dump, you know what I mean? Just let everything out. And I hold myself back from doing that. I think
Yeah.
that's cool that you can do that.
You know, it's an interesting process, right? Because I, at times I did, like when I, you know, for me, it really was a learning process. But then I started realizing like I would hold back on what it was I was receiving, whether it was an image or words, or I would hear things in my head. And then within seconds or minutes, that information was coming from a different source. So it could be, and this all started, you know, doing, you know, especially with the paranormal. I worked with the paranormal for years, did investigation and stuff. And I would hear or see something in my mind. And then I would think, well, that can't be related to what's going on. And then somehow it was confirmed, whether through a client saying something or whether from another source. And I'm like, well, why didn't I
Hmm.
just say that? You know? And so you start to really go, oh, okay, well, maybe instead of holding back, I'm actually receiving this information for a particular reason. And it's time now to just let it come out. And then when I started doing live lectures for the Paranormal Society and different events, there was times where I couldn't, we, you know, you've heard me talk on the phone where I'm completely lost in words. I'm trying to find the right word, or
Hmm.
I'm trying to, you know, whatever it is. And so what I've done is you know, when I was doing a lecture, if I wasn't able to find the right phrase or whatever it was that needed to be extended out, sometimes I literally just took a step back and I was able to channel that information. And it was almost like my own personal guides just going, okay, get the frick out of the way. let us let us channel what needs to be channeled, and let's just
Yeah.
go from there. So you stand here, we'll say what we need to say, and then we'll
Yeah.
back off. And so I eventually just learned, okay, just take the information that's coming through and use it to because obviously it's coming through for a reason,
Right.
right?
I
Yeah.
always feel like that's one thing that people have to understand. That's the first step. You know, you're getting information for a reason, and you just have to listen. That's it. Plain and simple, have to listen. I know a lot of people, they try to like, and I feel like I've just seen this happen a lot with people that are trying to develop their own psychic or intuitive skills. They're reaching for something that they don't even know what they're reaching for. Yet all it takes is simplicity and simply just being and listening, and kind of waiting for
Yeah.
that burst of insight. Really, I mean, it's happening all the time. It's happening all the time. There is always something to grab, you know? It's just you have to put yourself in the state, and you sort of have to know what you're really listening for or searching for, and what you're looking for when
Yeah.
you get into a state. And the best way, it really is one of the most cliche analogies, but it is that way for a reason because it works. It's fine tuning the radio station to pull in, you know, what is being signaled or triggered out there. So it does take
Yeah.
practice to tune the radio station, but also just know, for those of you that may be trying to develop their own psychic or intuitive skills, that that's the part that takes time, but all that information is always out there being sent to us, being compounded and contrasted, and um, past, present,
Exactly.
future, that doesn't really matter. It's just all about what you're really tuning into. And that's the part that takes time, is tuning your antenna, tuning your frequency.
Taking that a little further, what I also find is that there are many sensitives, intuitive, psychics that only take the surface of it, as opposed, and that's where what we can, also we can talk about with relationships, because there's been so many times with both of us working on psychic apps and just with clients where we've seen how relationships, we see the ebb and the flow of what could possibly be within the future following a certain it's almost like we hear that guidance that comes through. We hear the guidance, we feel the energy, we see the energy, we see the next steps in certain, um, between the people or between couples. And I think that that's why you and I can be, or we have been extremely successful with our clients, whether on the app or whether it's with our own personal clients, because there's been times um, where we've both had incidents where people are going, I don't see that happening. Nope, just leave them, leave her. It's never going to get together. It's never going to happen. And people are disappointed
Mm-hmm.
because they are feeling something that they're not understanding. They're not being able to grasp. They don't understand where all of this energy is coming from. And what we're able to do is we take the insight that we're receiving, and it's like a pattern. I know for me, I have clients that have come to me and they'll be like, you know, are you sure this is going to happen? I don't know if I have faith in it,
Right.
you know. And then months later, they'll come back and go, okay, you were right, bang on. Everything you said, almost to the words or to the particular date or the
Mm-hmm.
time, has happened. And that's where a good sensitive, a good psychic can really take a look, because you're not just looking at those surface levels of the energy, you're going deep down into the core of what is actually happening, and you're paying attention to not just A or not just B. You're not looking at just the surface level, you're going straight down into like doing a deep dive into the essence of the humans
Yeah. And
themselves.
I think what really is important is maybe the client doesn't need to have faith, but the psychic does. They have to have faith in what they're doing and trust that the information is coming through, their connections are coming through the right way, you know. And when they trust in that, when they have that inherent trust and belief and faith in what they're doing and their own abilities, that's, I think, all that's needed, you know, because sometimes the information that comes through, it can seem far-fetched, it can seem out there or weird or crazy or impossible, you know, but that's not for us to determine. It's just for us to trust our connection and be in that right frequency, the right tuning for the information to come through. And once
Yeah,
we're there, that's where we understand, okay, this might seem strange, but then again, what doesn't when you're tuned into that that kind of state, you know? Everything seems a little strange or different than reality. I watched this show last night. It was called like Adventures in Psychedelics, I think, on Netflix. And Deepak Chopra was on there, which I found really interesting that he was talking about the
I've seen that.
psychedelics.
It's
It
really good.
is. They were
Yeah.
actually supposed to
Yeah.
premiere that this year at South by Southwest, and I was so sad that the whole thing got canceled because I was going to be there for it and be able to see it. Um, but I got to see it
Yeah.
anyways, because Netflix obviously bought it or something. And I watched that, and he had said something that I knew already, but for whatever reason, in the context or the moment or the timing, he said this, and it really hit me. He said, because he was talking about how psychedelics alter, your perception of reality. And
Right.
he said that reality, you know, when if you're taking those psychedelics, he's like, the colors are different or the sounds are different or, however it goes. And he said, but really, when you think about it, in reality, there is no color. There are no colors and textures or sounds of things because human beings, what they perceive to be reality, it's different than like um, a fly or a cobra or an anteater or whatever. He names all sorts of different animals. A bat, like a bat uses echolocation to navigate. A fly has like a
Yeah.
billion different things on, its two eyes. So they're literally seeing the world completely different. The snake is seeing in infrared. They're seeing heat index. They don't even
Mhm.
see color like how we see it. So reality is subjective to the observer. And so it just so happens that us as humans really have a shared, and I think honestly it does probably go for each species, we have a shared perception of what the world looks like. But for whatever reason, thinking about it last night and being like a different being, you and I talk a lot about animals as spirit messengers, right? And
Yeah.
thinking about that in this terms, and this is kind of bringing it to a whole new level for myself. When an animal comes into my life, I feel like I want to start to, when it does feel significant, when it does feel like a messenger, I want to try to literally start to see the world through their eyes, whether it's, that giant stick bug that came a few weeks ago that was just completely random. Um, and he kept hanging around, or if it's the armadillo or a beautiful owl or, something, whatever it is, to try to perceive through
Yeah.
their lens because they literally do see the world different. And it just, I don't know why it hit me so hard and why it blows my mind, but even the thought of two different people, you and I, we we perceive our psychic senses differently, and therefore we don't really necessarily know without the psychic information, because that's where I feel like that good shared connection really exists.
Right.
Beyond that, you don't even know if your eyes and brain are seeing the same thing that I am. Like you'll never know. You can never
Yeah.
know that. And that to me makes me feel like even though we have built the entire reality of human existence on things that we see together in a shared vision, the the
Yeah.
bed, the door, the color of this, little blue thing that's back there, everything that we've been able to see reflected back to us, to our eyes, we've been able to share that. Um, but in all reality, based especially on quantum physics, and the quantum field here, really none of it exists until you actually perceive it in some way. And does it ever really exist unless or until it gives you a feeling? For example, how many things do you walk past in your life that you just don't even pay any attention to because it doesn't give you any sense of a feeling? Like I'm trying to think of
Right.
something simple, like maybe a door stopper that's on the ground. You know what I mean? Something
Yeah.
so insignificant. It doesn't really give you any kind of feeling. And so you don't really perceive it much. You don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
So that makes me feel like the things that are really important are the things that kind of give us a feeling. For example, what do you feel about this little background thing that I have here, um, behind the bed?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at is I'm trying to I don't know about a feeling, but I'm looking at it seeing
Mm-hmm.
constellations,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it makes me feel relaxed, peaceful, just like I could just
Mm-hmm.
calm,
Like a calming thing. So
calm.
you have some kind of
Right.
unconscious or yeah, unconsciously controlled reaction to it. You're like, oh, okay, that's like a calming
Yeah.
thing. Obviously, I put it around the bed because it does give me that sense of openness and calmness as well. And so I wouldn't have bought it and put it up if it didn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? And so what my point
Right.
is leading to is the fact that it seems like even though we can all agree that there's physical reality and matter that we can touch and feel and perceive, it's almost like none of that really even matters until it creates some kind of a reaction in us, right? And so
An emotion.
that's why
Yeah.
I feel it's so good to compare psychic interaction with relationships, um, because
Hmm.
we all know what relationships are, and we all have them. Even if you are a total lone wolf, you still have a relationship because you were birthed from human beings and you're still connected to them in some way. So even if you were born and you never interacted with another
Right.
person ever again, you still have a relationship somewhere. Or at the very least, a
Yeah.
relationship with the self. Let's not neglect that. I like to tell people, okay,
Exactly.
your soul is in here somewhere, somewhere around here, and it's
Hmm.
relating to the body. At the very least, you've got that. So I think that's why you and I just kind of arrived upon the idea to talk about relationships today because one, they're everywhere. Two, it's the most common
Hmm.
thing that we get asked all the time. Most common thing.
Is he gonna
Yes.
call?
We do get that a lot, quite a bit. And and three, I feel like right now, especially in the world, we have to really learn and remember what it's like to have healthy relationships because I don't feel like we are having them.
No, you know what? I 100% agree with you right now. There's such a divide right now that I feel, and no matter what side anybody is on, they're taking it in as this, um, you know, do or die type of, attitude and behavior. And it's like pushing,
Yeah.
pushing, pushing. And, I'm right, you're wrong. And and the thing is that even if you're in a place of
Hmm.
complacency, okay, not being complacent, but more on the look at you do you, I'll do me, let's just go. There's that other element that's coming in saying, well, if you're not standing up for, the rights of all, whatever the frick it is, then you're this. There's so many assumptions going on, and it's off of either way. And people are making these, and I'm finding that right now too, is the biggest thing that people are doing is they're throwing personal attacks at others, as opposed to sitting back and going, okay, let me look at what you said.
Hmm.
And instead of just analyzing that one sentence or that one thought or that one theory that you have in regards to whatever it is, I'm going to come at you with this personal attack
Yeah.
instead of looking at the whole picture of what it is that, people, where their thought process is at that point. And what that is doing is not only creating that tension between romantic relationships, but also, within the friends and the family, because it's almost as though, um, people are jumping to that element of attack, as opposed to really sitting there and going, okay, I know what she said. I agree, with maybe parts of this statement, or I don't agree at all, whatever it is. But that doesn't make you this horrific person. I'm not going to throw it out there. And it's actually really funny because I just to change it a little bit, I have commented on some, whether it's media, uh,
Right.
Facebook chats or whatever it is, and I'll state what it is that I have to
Hmm.
say. And you're being polite, you're being diplomatic, you're being very nice about it. And it's funny because my kid, he'll when I do something, when I'm proud of something that I've written, I'll show him or whatever it is, or when I feel that I've made a good statement, and he laughs at me now because I'll sit there and I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sure enough they're going to come back at me because somebody, instead of just taking what I've said in that one sentence, they've gone and they've read my profile, which claims on there that I am a psychic. I do this work. I list all the places that I work at. And the first thing they come back at is, oh, you're a psychic. You must be psycho, or, what, like it's a personal attack against
Hmm.
me on a level that had nothing to do with my
Right.
statement. And I just sit there and I laugh now and I go, okay, well, obviously there's no substance to your point
Yeah.
if you can't defend it without attacking me on this
Right.
personal level, you know. And I'm finding that, and that in itself, because we're seeing that so much on media, um, even within our
Yeah.
politicians, or we're seeing this attack, 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 instead of, okay, let's take what you had to say and let's analyze this on a logical and diplomatic educational basis. I'm just going to throw out there that you're a big fat poopy head, you know? And so you think and you go, if we're seeing this on a human, just on a human level towards perfect strangers, what is happening now within those intimate
Yeah.
relationships? Because just because I might not agree with the statement. And I mean, you and I, how many times have we had conversations where it's like, I see something
Right.
differently,
Right. What happened to just
right? Or I
respecting
see,
other people having different opinions or perceptions and being like, oh, okay, you see things differently. Cool, because we're human people and that happens. Like, cool, it doesn't make me care about you
yeah,
any less or anything.
it right. It shouldn't change the relationship. It shouldn't change the
Yeah.
friendship. It's seeing things on this different matter. It's not sitting there stomping your feet and saying, well, you're a dummy
Hmm.
head. Like, and if we can't, there's always that statement, that what somebody shows in person or in
Right.
public, it's usually worse
Yep.
behind the scenes.
Yep. Usually.
So you got to sit there and you think, if you're doing this on a um public forum, let's
Hmm.
just say, I'm going to use something, whether I shouldn't or shouldn't, I don't really you know me. I I have seen this particular Twitter. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's nasty. It's just nasty, and this person has shown on several occasions that they lack complete respect towards other
Hmm.
people. They pretend at times, and pretend that they're all enlightened and whatever
Hmm.
else, but push comes to shove and they're pulling out names and they're calling people nasty, nasty things. And you think, and then you see that they're getting a divorce. And you're like, you think? You think? Because if you're doing this on a public level, what are you doing behind the
Yeah.
scenes? You're being a keyboard warrior at this point in
Hmm.
time. What are you doing that? I'm not seeing, or somebody else isn't seeing. Because if you're going to be this nasty on keyboard, sure as heck, you're going to be even worse behind those scenes. Or at least your energy is going to portray
Hmm.
that. It may not be in words, maybe you can pretend or hide it or cover it up with fake niceness at some
Hmm.
point, but it is going to come out in that interpersonal relationship. And that's what people aren't um they're not seeing it all, or they might perceive that one or two nice words or sentences or posts or whatever. If you look at the true core of that human, and that's where as psychics we can look and we go, whew, the core of that person,
Yeah.
I'm seeing nasty turbulence,
Yeah.
and personally not something that I would want in my element, right? But
It's
the problem the problem comes through is that when somebody isn't digging deeper into the surface of what that core is, and again, we're perceiving everything on this surface level, and if you're not in that intuitive state, and the funny thing is that we all have that ability, but we tend to stop ourselves simply because of the fact that, I mean, it's not, yes, I know how to, maybe it's a special gift for me or a special gift for you and other psychics, but the bottom line is we all have that ability to deep dive into what it is that we're feeling, thinking, receiving, hearing, visualizing, all of it. And it's a matter of putting it together and processing it. And that's where people are, lacking, especially when it comes to that human interaction.
yeah. It's I feel like one of the ultimate goals in relationships is to come to some sense of understanding and to eventually learn, more about people or in turn more about
Mm-hmm.
yourselves. How many times have you seen the story or the situation events happen, um, where people who are together for a while, they start to know what the other person is going to say. They know when they're in one mood or another, um, or they know, when they, might need some TLC, and a little extra love language interaction kind of thing. I
Right.
feel that the more that you're with somebody, and if you have a nice, genuine, and honest and longer term relationship, you do pick up on those
Yeah.
things. You will start to, know what your partner is going to say before they even say it. And I do feel that that is a form of psychic interaction. And
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting about psychics is that essentially I think that that's exactly what they're doing with every person they connect to. Every
Right.
person. It's almost as if you're dating them, right? Because we're getting into a place where we so deeply embed our energy or their energy with us, however, everybody does it different, that you just start to feel them and you share them. And when you're engaged in a moment of communication with them, it's like they just they feel seen, they feel recognized, they feel, in some sense honored, right, and validated because we're picking up on how they feel. And honestly, I think the key to all of that and what I've learned is that it's love, it's compassion. When you have genuine
Right.
love and compassion for another, and especially somebody you
Mm-hmm.
don't even know, you are going to be able to pick up on information psychically or intuitively with others. It's just the way
Absolutely.
it is. But we just so happen to see it
Even if you're not
frequently.
agreeing with the situation, right? Even
What's
if
that?
you're not agreeing with the situation, you can act towards that situation.
Oof. Right, right, absolutely. I
Yeah.
really think that that is the key. And I mean, think of in your relationships, everybody, in the relationships that you've had, when you do say that you love somebody, you do start to create a different energy. It creates a different tone. Think about the times when you said that you love somebody and they didn't love you back, and what happened. The whole energy, completely shifted. It was a whole
Yeah.
instance where, your love is not being met. And this leads me into the toxic part of relationships. When you
Yeah.
do profess a love with somebody, it's not met, and then all of a sudden, you know, if it is toxic, that person may keep trying to give their love and trying to receive the love, from that other person, and it's not happening. And when that continues, that's where I feel that's when things get toxic, when you keep trying to feed that over and
Yep.
over again. Looks like something happened with your
Mm-hmm.
camera here. Let me make sure I can fix it. Hi there, Brianna, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us here in the chat. Um, I don't understand why or how your camera changed.
What is my camera doing?
It just got smaller, so I'm gonna have
Did I?
to just extend it here.
Oh, I see what happened. Yeah, it did extend.
There we go.
Went away there.
I don't understand because it's locked and it shouldn't be doing anything, but we fixed it.
It's magic.
This is pandemic chaos. So
Right?
everybody understands. I mean, I've seen so many celebrities who are paid to be on camera have worse quality things, so I don't feel too worried about it. Y'all bear
Yeah.
with us. We're just human.
Especially with the Skypes that they're doing now, right? Like those live Skypes that, I've been watching some of them and I'm like, geez, dude, can't you
Yeah,
afford like more than your like dollars for a camera there? Like you're all fuzzy and you're all over the place. And it's I don't know.
total mess.
I shouldn't be so, but you're like, okay, well, whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
it's working for you, but it's funny,
It's good to see everybody
especially
on
if there's
the.
a few of them and you'll see one
Oh
that's like
God,
so clear and the other one's like fuzzy, and you're like, okay, well, it's not the stream.
yeah. It's good to see everybody on the same playing field here.
Yeah,
We're all
yeah.
all in the same boat.
Maybe I wonder. Do should I'm just wondering if maybe Brianna has a question that she would like to look into in regards to
Yeah.
relationships. We could just maybe throw that out there to her if she's interested in asking us something. We can read it in the chat or whatever. But um, going back to that toxicity, it's I feel like a lot of people um we also get addicted to the toxicity.
Hmm.
Now my camera's off again.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what's
don't
going on with
understand
that.
why it keeps doing that. I got it. Don't
I feel like peekaboo.
worry. We will fix this. Not to worry. All right. I don't know why it keeps switching back and forth. Like I said, bear with us.
It's
All
funny.
right, it's locked. It shouldn't do anything. It shouldn't change on its own. We'll see what happens. Yeah, toxicity is challenging. I've been looking it up, um, and I was researching about it for the show today. And there's so many different definitions of what toxic even is or looks like. But some of the things that are agreed upon, is being manipulated by others, gaslighting, that's definitely a big one that does create a lot of toxic interaction. Um, but honestly, I feel like in simplicity, anything that is not authentic can lead to being toxic, plain and simple.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best measuring device is when you're not authentic, you run the risk of things being toxic easily.
All the time. Right? Most people, what they're seeking or looking for or craving is that
Yeah.
authenticity. And it's the very the there are, as many times as we say, you know men are players, women are like this, whatever gender specific that we want to put towards each group. The bottom line is we are all really craving that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to create or have that one thing, what we truly need to do is allow ourselves to create it. We can't expect authenticity from someone else if we're not willing to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are many people that are very good at pretending,
Yes.
to be there. But at that same time, if we're trusting our own intuition, if we're trusting our own senses, and it's funny because it's usually sometimes our friends that may come along and go, this dude's full of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
you know what I, right? Or vice versa towards men, that she's just after this, or this is not where, whatever it is, right? And but because we don't allow ourselves to listen to our intuition, we're not digging into our actual core being, we're not listening to those messages. And
Yeah.
sometimes the blocking of the messages is actually more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
than digging into the deep. And that's where we get addicted to that
Yeah.
toxicity of what it is. You can tell somebody 100 times, a million times that somebody is the way they are,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't on a positive level, but until they actually open their eyes and take a look and really watch and sit back and then do that deep dive into their own intuition,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to see it,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate,
It
right?
is.
And if we just allowed that, we'd probably be seeing things at a whole different level. And it's funny because we probably have a lot more people claiming to be psychic
Yeah.
simply because of that.
Yeah. I think,
Yes.
like you said, we all have it. We all have the ability. We all have the capacity to have psychic interaction. In my personal opinion, and from what I've seen, based on my meditations, my connection with Source and Spirit, and quite honestly, my perspective and what I've been shown and seen about my purpose and path and what I'm creating, is that I think honestly, psychic communication is just like learning a new language. You learn a language when you're young, and it just kind of comes out because it's something that your parents are saying and your family, and you just hear it, and you start talking, and it just starts happening before you even know how to write, before you even know what words really are. You're talking, right? And I think it's the
Yeah,
same way with psychic information, except this kind of communication, I think, is ingrained within us, in our DNA, in our animalistic
right.
nature. I think that's kind of where it comes from. So even that, I think, is older, no, more developed right away as soon as we're brought into this world than anything else, than any other
Yeah,
type of communication. I mean, just think of a baby and how sponge like they are absorbing all of the stimuli around them. Oh my gosh, this is a hand, and this is the ground, and this is my toy,
mm-hmm.
and they learn real quickly, because they're absorbing everything. And mothers, the whole mother's intuition is a real thing. I think you might be able to speak on that more than I
Oh yeah,
can, but
sure.
I know that I felt it,
Yeah,
with my own mother as well.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh yeah, you just know.
there's things that you just know, right? And I think, let me ask you your personal opinion. Do you think that that is more of an animalistic thing to keep the offspring alive?
Yeah, I do, simply because of the fact that, again, it has to be on an individual basis. I mean, we can say that it is more animalistic, but then we see these mothers who are, extremely neglectful or abusive or whatever it is. And that would be somebody for me who in no way is instinctual.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be running on a completely different operating system.
Mm-hmm.
Same with, but if we take that further, we see partners who are completely blind
Hmm.
to a person that they've been with for years, not seeing the pain within
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? Or not seeing how they're affecting somebody else by their behavior.
Hmm.
And you tend to think, well, how could somebody do that? But at the same point, we do it all the time. Or there's, you know, we have that, it happens all the time. I wouldn't say we do it, but it happens on a regular basis. And I feel that bringing that to another level is then we have the people that are habitual cheaters, or the gaslighting,
Yep.
the
Hmm.
liars, the what, even if it's not habitual, but you know what I mean. And the thing is, it's such on a, nobody can say that cheating is instinctual. I just, you know what I mean. For me,
Right.
it's,
Sex may be
you know what I
instinctual,
mean. We all,
but
right,
cheating, no.
right. If you're going to be in a relationship, how do you instinctually want to destroy another human being by those
Hmm.
actions? That makes no sense. So unless you have some sort of partnership where there is that lack of monogamy, right?
Hmm.
And this is a duo um agreement or whatever it
Right.
is,
Right.
then you're basically not acting on instinct to go and destroy somebody.
Hmm.
That's acting out of pure selfishness,
Selfishness.
ego, right?
Yeah.
Ego, vanity, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Like if you're that insecure that you have to find that validation, whether in a sexual, emotional, or mental way, whatever it is, then that's something that you're creating a sense of destruction towards your partner.
Yep. And you're not even honoring them in any way. I would even argue that you don't even love them.
No, how you can't say that you love somebody if you're willing to destroy
Yeah.
them, because having that information would destroy another person.
I think most
It's
people,
kind of
yeah.
like,
I don't think it's everybody because there
right?
are always,
No,
some differences
yeah,
to each case. But I think most people, yeah, they're going to be hurt. They're going to feel betrayed. They're going to feel like they were
absolutely.
taken advantage of. And quite honestly,
Hmm.
I would have to agree with most people that it's,
And it's that lack of honesty too,
yeah,
because the hardest thing I think for people, most people, I mean, we're always going to have those people that are running on a type of ego where if you're not saying what I want to hear, and it goes back again to that social media and what we're really seeing being played out in society at this moment. Um, but you know, there are some people that they don't want to hear the truth. They say they want to hear the truth, but then when you give them the truth,
yeah,
it's a whole different matter. Whereas there are most people, and really people with a more spiritual basis behind them. That doesn't mean religion, it doesn't mean spirituality, but people that have that compassion towards other human beings, they're going to honor that soul contract in some way, that energy contract, because they know that by speaking the truth towards something, they're not only clearing or creating a better energy between themselves and that person, they're creating a better energy within their own human capacity, their own human
yeah.
soul, their own energy. There's nothing that they have to remember. They don't have to remember that lie. They don't have to remember, they're not going to slip up.
Hmm.
Like, and when you're stuck in that place of being scared, am I going to say the wrong thing? What kind of relationship is that we have? That's another thing we have to,
Oof.
as humans, we have to look at. If I'm walking on eggshells and I'm scared to say to you, um, hey, you know, Brandon, as like one of my close friends, blah blah blah. I have nothing to say to you. I'm just
Right.
using that as an example.
Well, I've got one for you because this is a big issue for me personally. This is something that has always plagued me, and I think it still gets me to this day. I've noticed myself falling into the habit of like holding myself back and not
Hmm.
fully coming out and saying, what I am feeling inside, and so I just kind of hold it back. And for me, I always feel like it's a little bit weirder for me because I'm perceiving more things than the average person, right? So the stigma
Yeah.
with psychics is that they know everything, right? Well, that's not the case. But yes,
Yeah.
we have opened up our energy and our minds and our auras and our souls and whatever you want to, categorize it as and however you get information. We are opening it up to more stimuli, more ways of getting information. And it's available, again, to everyone. We're not doing anything that you can't do. Some people just have more of an
Right.
affinity or naturalness towards it, just like other people, can be trained to draw
Can play the
or
piano.
be a completely natural drawer, you know?
Yeah.
Same exact thing. Um, I feel like, let me ask you, what does holding yourself back in the way that you're talking about, what does that do to a relationship? What does it do to each person?
Well, I feel like the one that is not receiving the
Mm-hmm.
information is really stuck in a place of, because I do believe everybody has you know, we always use that information or that word, that term free will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's just say, as an example, um, I ask a particular question and it's going to make, you know, and I would say this probably has more to do with people that are dating, or it could be within a marriage or something. Let's say two people are married.
Mm-hmm.
Let's use that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
One has an affair and the one, you know, that doesn't, they feel it. I mean, there are, we both have dealt with thousands of people. They know, right? There are some that are completely clueless, but for the most part, people have that instinct. You know when something is not right within something, and you're asking for that information. So when you're not receiving that information, you either have to find out that information through a way that is something that you normally wouldn't do, maybe on a sneaky level, or people hire private detectives, or they, whatever it is that they, you know, however they find that information,
Mm-hmm.
right? Looking through their mate's cell phones, or you know,
Right.
like basically they're driving themselves crazy because of the fact that they know, or they have that
Well,
instinctual feeling,
that's,
or something's not, like there's a vibration that's coming through
yes.
that is not correct, right? And
Yes.
so what it does is it takes away their free will of making an actual choice. Because
Ah.
here's the thing, there are some people that know, okay, they might go, okay, you know what, for whatever reason, I'm okay with this person having an
Mm-hmm.
affair, or maybe I'm okay with a more open relationship, or maybe I'm okay with, you know, we're not here to judge their relationships,
Right.
right? Like, I mean, it's their, how, whatever they're comfortable with. Maybe somebody's okay with that, but not having that ability to create that free choice within that. So if somebody is saying, no, 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 I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that, but the other person is feeling that vibration of what is actually happening. They know they're not crazy. They know, like, you know, we're getting into like that gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're feeling, and they're not, the other person is sort of preventing them from receiving those true vibrations, because they're blocking themselves, right?
Yes.
So it's almost like this block, the person is feeling those vibrations, they know. And that kind of comes with like that mother's, again, you know, we go back to mother's instinct. How do we know that our kid 400 miles away from us might need a phone call? Because we feel those vibrations, we all feel them. And so when we get trapped in that method of dishonesty, what we're doing is we're essentially saying to the other person, um, your energy or my energy towards this doesn't matter. You don't matter. I'm not giving you your free will in regards to this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And essentially, it also kind of sets up that person for, or the other person. It can also, we go to the gaslighting, simply because of the fact, like if we talk about gaslighting, and not every cheating situation is gaslighting, of course, but it can be.
Right.
But if we look at just gaslighting as an example, where people are gas, like if we even if we look back at that old movie, where I think it was literally called Gaslighting or something like that. It was like a 1940s,
Mm-hmm.
1930s, something like that movie, where originally this term kind of came from, and now it's being brought more into nowadays, so, now society nowadays. But most people know when somebody's not being honest. Like if if I put my coffee cup here and all of a sudden it's here, you can't tell me that something didn't happen. It's the same way with
Yeah.
energy. So, if I'm asking somebody, look at, did this happen? No, 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 no. You're essentially taking away their free will of making a decision or a choice that is better for
Yep.
themselves. And you're also putting in that element of what would essentially be that gaslighting,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not allowing that person, you're not giving them that information, you're blocking it. So what it would do for me is what I feel for the person that's doing the the lying, the cheating, the
Mm-hmm.
dishonesty, is really you're trapping when we aren't speaking from authentic from our authentic selves. We are really putting up a barrier,
Yeah. A
right?
mask.
Because we don't want others to feel. Yeah, we're putting on a mask, we're putting up this barrier, this energy field around us. And essentially, what when I look into situations and stuff, it's almost like you can see that energy again flowing, but what it's doing is it's hitting this wall. It's hitting.
Mm-hmm.
And where's that going to go? It's going to go back at you at some point, which is creating more
Yeah.
dishonesty, more lies, more inauthenticity. You're seeking now because you don't have that confidence within yourself, because of that own energy field that is being distributed. You're now seeking more validation from others. You're now losing your own self-esteem. You're losing your own self-assurance. You're starting to question your own ability to trust your own
Mm-hmm.
judgment.
Yeah.
And so the cycle
And it creates
continues,
that
right?
whole toxic loop. It really does. That's so beautifully put, honestly.
That's
That was very well put.
Yeah. And so you've now got two people that, because of this lack of allowing themselves to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, but again, I understand, because some people, they're scared to tell the truth because of either past relationships, or maybe because of the way that they perceive this person is going to accept that, the
Mm-hmm.
honesty. And we get that. We've all either had relationships where we were honest and it blew
Mm-hmm.
up on us about something. I mean, it could be, yes, I spent an extra $20 at, the buying shoes or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But we've all had that incident where somebody has
Mm-hmm.
overreacted.
Absolutely. I
And so obviously that is going to put us into a place where we're scared now to see it. But the bottom line is, if you're both being dishonest, I mean, wouldn't you rather not walk on
right
eggshells,
is
no matter the
right.
consequences, rather than be stuck in that
I
position,
feel
right?
like although there may be times when it's hard to fully talk about what you're feeling or thinking or your perceptions about another people or how they're making you feel. Ultimately, at the end of the day, even if you're trying to hold back what you're thinking or feeling out of fear of hurting their feelings, essentially you're kind of hurting it all in the long run, anyways, because like you said, they don't have a chance to react to the energy that is so very clearly being put out there. And they're still interacting with it, whether it's a conscious or
Yeah.
unconscious level. They're still interacting with it, they're still perceiving it in some way. And it's going to create a rift, it's going to create that inauthentic expression of self. I think that's why you see in so many examples of any kind of couples therapy or tantric workshops, with couples, that they all speak about being vulnerable with one another. All of them. You have to have that state of vulnerability if you really want to truly connect in an authentic way, and through love. You have to be
Absolutely.
vulnerable.
And I mean, you definitely don't need to take the workshops in order to do so. It's just a matter of, if you have a love and respect towards that other
Yeah.
person, it's absorbing that love and respect towards them, and then allowing, that honesty to go
Hmm.
forward, right? And, some of the strongest couples we've seen, whether this is played through media or whether within our own personal relationships, it, the one partner can, or the partners can look at each other, and no matter how goofy, or maybe they're, somebody's not always, you know, you know, maybe they say something that's stupid, or maybe they do things that are, but that partner has that support
Yeah,
towards, because
exactly.
they know the genuine self of that person, right? I
Yeah.
was recently
Yep.
watching, I was recently looking at some pictures and some video of something, and I was laughing to myself because I saw the fakeness, and you could just, it was so eminent. It was like this energy that was bursting off of the screen. I can't it was it actually kind of, it was actually
Hmm.
comical to some degree, and I thought, like, all you can do is just sit there and you go,
Hmm.
whatever, you know that there's actually no genuine
Yeah.
connection between them. And I mean, we've all seen that, again, going back to TV media or whatever it is, and you can see them standing there all poised and
Hmm.
pretending that everything's all perfect. But again, as intuitive psychics, sensitives, I used to explain it to people, especially when it came down to the paranormal, is I would say to them, look, at, a house is really only four walls. Ultimately, a house is only four walls, no matter even whether it's a mansion or
Hmm.
whatever it is. It's a shack. It's four walls. And the energy that you put in
Yeah.
towards that home, no matter how big that home is going to be
Yeah.
trapped within it. And so when you're in a state of fear, when you're in a state of doubt, or again, not being vulnerable, or not being authentic, or being
Hmm.
fake, that is going to project. And people that are sensitive, people that are psychic, even everyday people, can look at that and go, this is such a freaking sham. And, but here's the thing, is that when you're seeing that sham, the funny thing is again, let's go back even further. So let's say we see a couple that is obviously a sham. You know that these two people together, there's nothing holding them truly
Hmm.
together. What happens is it now also puts other people in a place of being inauthentic or
Hmm.
vulnerable with these two
Hmm.
people, because that energy is being cast out all over the place,
Hmm.
right? So if I let's say you're with somebody, and I see that, and I see the you, because I mean it's either obvious, as an intuitive or a psychic, or
Hmm.
maybe it's just obvious because I'm a good friend, or maybe it's obvious to just the average. Then we all know. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Trump and Nevada, Ivanka, or whatever the hell her name. I mean, like right there. Let's just use that as an example, right? We know this is okay, or even my own prime minister and his. We know this is fake. Like we know this is BS.
Hmm.
Okay, what happens is I'm losing my. Why do I want to be authentic to you when you can't even have an authentic relationship with a partner?
Right.
Right? I'm not, it's not that I won't, because I'm deeper than that, but the average person is not going to have that. They're going to hold back. They're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to be authentic to somebody who can't be authentic within themselves in some way,
Yeah.
or that this couple, like, so this couple now is really not receiving. That would be like the typical couple where everybody knows either he or she is having an affair, and nobody wants to freaking say anything.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that's a
then,
difficult
after
one.
they break up, right?
Yeah.
And then after they break up, all their best friends kind of come to them and go, "Oh, I knew she was cheating, or I knew he was doing this,"
Hmm.
right? It's like, well, why didn't you say anything? Because you're so damn fake as it is,
Right.
that it's really hard for somebody to come to you on an authentic manner, because it's difficult. How do you, right? And so most people will say, "Oh, it's just none of my business. That's between the two of them." But I'll speak my mind after they break up.
Right. That's like you
Whereas
might as well
somebody
not
who is,
even have said
right,
anything. Like, no.
yeah, but it's like the ones that are genuine on the inside,
Yeah.
the ones that are authentic within themselves, they look at that other person and they go, "Look at, I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
I can, how, I'm going to speak my mind in regards to this, or I'm going to open up in regards to this, or whatever it is,
Hmm.
simply because of the fact that they're in a more genuine, vulnerable, honest, and open
Yeah.
place."
I think that's a beautiful place to end for now. Is really if you want to figure out the scale between where your own personal relationship is between being toxic and being healthy, is asking yourself,
Mhm.
are you being authentic? If the answer is yes, completely, chances are you're living a healthy relationship. And if the inverse is true, if you even have to question if you're being authentic, you're probably not being fully authentic, and that there's more room to do, because you're going to
Mhm.
know. You're going to know if you're being genuine and authentic, because it feels amazing, and at times it also feels awkward and uncomfortable, and it pushes your limits of
Right.
comfort. You know, not to say that discomfort is the telltale here, um, because sometimes discomfort can mean you are stuck in something um, abusive, right, or difficult, um, and unhealthy. But the toxicity really implements, am I and my partner, are we being fully authentic with one another? If you have to question if your partner is being
Right.
authentic or not, chances are probably they're probably not being as authentic as they could be.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best scale for this is authenticity. I think it comes right down to that. And I think it also speaks to a whole other part of our work that we do. In order to connect psychically, we have to be authentic, right? And so when we have
Yeah.
clients who berate us, or are just mean or abusive, I mean, it's I want to get across the sentiment that when you do this to a psychic, you're essentially a real psychic, a genuine psychic. You're essentially doing it to like a lover, to like a partner, because that's how deeply connected we are to you in that moment. So
Yeah.
I think it's really
Yeah.
important to
It's
notice
true. It's true.
these things, because more and more people are going to be psychic and psychically aware as time goes on. We don't have a choice. We're all stuck at
Hmm.
home.
Right, right. We, we have to expand out in some way, shape, or form. I want to touch on forgiveness just a little bit too,
Okay.
because I think that that's an important aspect. I think that, and again, going back to the honesty, it is really hard for people sometimes to be honest or open or genuine or vulnerable because other people carry that lack of
Hmm.
forgiveness. And it's very hard. And, going back to, you know, if you've had bad partnerships in the past, or there are many many women out there, and I'm not just going to say women, I mean this is for men
Right.
too, where they've been honest about something and they have been abused, they have been beaten, they have been
Hmm.
shunned,
Hmm.
for minor things or major things, whatever it is, and there's a lot of that toxicity, from the partner, and so it puts them in a place of being scared to be honest, which we can understand. um, but at that same time, there's that matter of
Hmm.
forgiveness, and going back into looking into the actual core selves. I think what people need to really be working at right now, especially with all the negativity and things that are going on, is that matter of forgiveness or understanding, but from an actual core level. And again, going beyond just that surface. When we say, I know for me, if I say I forgive somebody, it's because I've gone layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Like I've dug out, I think, just about pretty much every vein and artery that I can regarding the situation,
Yeah.
right? But not everybody does that, because I have to literally get myself to a point of forgiveness, not for the other person, it's
Yeah.
for me. It's for
Yeah.
me, right? And that's what we have to really recognize. I feel that within society now, because we have so much information being slammed at us, and so many um, uh, negativity, words like that. I think as humans, if we could take some time and really learn that element of forgiveness. So, you know, instead of, even online, like through social media or whatever, like I said, when I comment on something and the first thing that they come back with is something on a personal attack for me, and calling me oh, you're a psycho instead of a psychic, or oh yeah, look at you,
Hmm.
how's your crystal ball, or whatever crap it is. I just don't
Yeah.
care anymore. But you have to understand what place that's coming from,
Yeah.
and allowing that forgiveness to come in, because of the fact that they're, I just, we have to just sort of tend to look at them and go, okay, look at, I know where you are, I don't need to say anything to them, but understanding within that realm of forgiveness, and just
It helps.
looking at, right, absolutely. And then you're also not reacting, you're not
Yes.
overreacting, and you're not putting an element of more of that vibrational energy that is
Hmm.
going to either prevent free will or have it bounce back at you in creating more toxicity.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful point. Forgiveness really is a huge thing, and it is more for the self than anything else. But if you're still, essentially, it does allow that release of whatever, wronged you, or, that has to be
Yeah.
forgiven. If you're still hanging on to that and haven't forgiven it, that's still going to translate out into the relationship no matter what. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely right. It does have to be released, or it's going to be just like that whole walking on eggshells thing and holding yourself back from saying something. Same type of energy. It's
Right.
blocking a flow, and it's not letting that full flow be out there. I know I felt a little guilty sometimes when I would tell people things that I know were very deep, and I know that they would be impactful in some
Mm-hmm.
way, whatever I told them. And I'm like, but I can feel that sense of that truth needing to come out. You can just feel it in you. You know, there's not real any rhyme or reason to that. It's just you feel that sensation. And I know sometimes I've definitely felt guilty, but I I gave it because I felt like I needed to give that moment exactly that feeling. And so whether they get mad or however they are, that again, like you said, it's their reaction. Their reaction is kind of based on whatever they're thinking and feeling in them, but you've you've essentially taken that block up. I it's insane how many relationships I've connected with that I can feel they're both blocked off to each other. They're completely blocked off to each other, but yet they've been together for like, 10, 20 years, and they've lived a whole relationship like this. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you guys even doing? Like, how are you even relating? Period. It's tough, but I think we're getting
Yeah.
into a place in history right now where we're ripping up everything. We are ripping up everything in the kitchen sink to get to the core issues that, are within us. Whatever's deep in there, I mean, it is all coming up
Yeah.
right now. Absolutely, Kelly. You're
Exactly.
100% right. All need to forgive. The longer we hold on to that, it becomes toxic. It's so true. That can literally start creating issues within us, any unresolved emotion. And I'm even going to go so far as to say that even hanging on to um, positive emotions in an obsessive way creates issues as well. And that's why balance is so
Yeah.
incredibly important. We should not be feeling emotions for more than about 10, 15 minutes. If we're feeling an emotion for longer than 15 minutes, something's going on inside of us that we've got to check. Some kind of block, something resistant,
Yeah.
whatever it is, something's going on. Because our constant states, our constant rate and state of vibration is one of love, which is just unconditional acceptance, right? So if we're feeling,
Mhm.
ecstatic, if we're feeling joy, I know this sounds so crazy, and I'm so sorry if it goes against other people's ideas, beliefs, or teachings. You believe as you need to, but from what I've learned, understood, and experienced, if you're feeling even those positive things for quite a long time, chances are something's going on in you. And it makes me think of an example. Say you have somebody who has blocked out or regressed something difficult or traumatic from childhood, and all they want to do is just live a joyous, positive, happy life. And so they're just staying in that state all the time. Nobody can be in that state all the time. And so at some point, they're going to be faking it, right? You're going to be faking that, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be fully authentic. And then we get back into the circle of not being, that full authentic self, like you were talking about. It's tough.
Well, the problem is that when, and especially like what Kelly was saying with toxicity and forgiveness. Okay, when we're hanging on to that, what we're actually doing is, and very similar exactly to what you're saying in regards to staying within that positive emotion. Um, at some point, it is not a genuine emotion. It's exactly that. It's fake. So then you're looking, and why am I hanging on to this? Why am I creating this, especially when it's a long period of time within a matter of, that
Hmm.
same moment. Okay, instead of releasing it. So, and that's where we have to really start going into the core. And like I was saying, I mean, when I'm seeking forgiveness towards somebody or something, I have to really start digging in, and then you start pulling it out, because that's where you're pulling in, and like that genuine authenticity
Hmm.
towards something. And if you're sitting there in this completely either happy or negative vibration towards whatever is happening, um, it's not towards that actual situation. Is truly what is
Hmm.
going on, right? So now you're pretending to
Yeah.
create, and they actually say, if we look into manifestation and the methods behind it, and this is something I've been, delving into for years, right? It's really only like 17 seconds of
Hmm.
emotion. that you can either create or dispel. And, when we're talking about forgiveness, I mean, we've all had people do
Yeah.
shitty things to
Oh
us,
yeah.
right? But at that same time, we have to start digging into the separate layers of, is it just this one person? Was it just this
Mm-hmm.
one incident?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. You know, why am I so pissed off? Is it just that this one person? Is it just this
Yeah.
one thing? Let's start going back. And so once you start delving right into it and you start really getting to the core, and you're just, like I said, you're yanking it out. Actually, one of the visualizations that I teach people, that I've had with my own personal clients is, and it's crazy because it's kind of morbid visualization, but it works, is it's like, visualize yourself on a dock. Okay, and you've got like a boat in front of you in the water. For some people, it's like a coffin. Visualize whatever it is that will be a container. And when we want to get to our core, it's like, literally open yourself up. Open yourself up and let it spill, and receive those emotions that are coming through with whatever it is that you're spilling out, and really take a good strong look at those emotions. Are they in regards to this one person? Are they regards to this one incident? Are they and you know what, here's the thing, if this is a deep layered situation, maybe not again with that one person, but maybe it's years of abuse, or years of being cheated on, or maybe years of
Yeah.
whatever it is, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to need to spill it. It might not be one session,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to do with yourself. This could be several sessions. It could be, but at that same time, as you're clearing it, you want to actually release it, and let it, and have that forgiveness, that true forgiveness towards what it
Right.
is, right? We see so many, you know, just within ourselves, our own clients, we'll see people that will be like, I know I've had them, maybe you've had them too, these people that are screaming at us going, well, you did this and you did that and you did this and you're like, whoa, lady, I did nothing to you. Right? But basically, they're just releasing what it is that they want to say towards this other
Mm-hmm.
person. And we're receiving the brunt of it. Like you had said, we're the ones that end up with being kicked because of their own feelings. But in the process of that, you also understand that they're releasing. They are releasing to some degree. And if we can talk them through it and allow them that um, open mic, really, it does create a different
It
atmosphere
does.
for them. It does help them to let go of stuff, and even for myself, I've had to take a look at situations that, have really hurt me, have really, really like kicked me to the core. And you're like, oh my God, you know, but at that same time, you have to keep going deep, and you have to keep going deep, and you have to keep
Mm-hmm.
looking through. And it's that releasing, that it's that allowing, and it's that true forgiveness towards somebody or something. Maybe it's just towards a situation, whatever it is. And like I said, for me, I don't say I've forgiven anybody until I've actually
Right.
freaking forgiven them, because I like, that's not fair to
Right.
that person if I'm saying that. Okay, I might still hold on to some feelings for it, but that doesn't mean that I
Right.
haven't forgiven it. You know what I mean? So, and we all do interesting things like that, but it's I think now, like right now, especially with the way things are, the world is going, people being so divided on one side or this side, not actually having that compassion
Mm-hmm.
towards others. We have to really start tapping into our own, again, authenticity, our own vulnerability, allowing ourselves to, instead of taking what we're seeing on a meme or a news story or whatever. We have to, I think that we really need to sit there right now and say, how does this feel to me? Does this feel genuine, or is it just feeling like this is something that I should do because of the because it's the cool thing to do, or is this something that I need to do for another person, whatever it
Yeah.
is, right? But we have to really look into ourselves and absorb that authenticity.
There's so many layers and components, I think, that go into relationships, but I think it does boil down to that sense of authentic self the most. Um,
Yeah.
if you put on a show and a mask, you know, in the very beginning of a relationship, you're going to have to keep that up the whole time. Or, you know, you might even be challenged to strip those away because you might be with somebody who's more authentic than you are. And it's just going to adversely affect. And it's just, I think there's no better way to know if somebody loves you. I think that this could answer, honestly, every question that I've been asked on these psychic network apps specifically. Is all right, first ask yourself if you're living fully and authentically in the relationship. Is your partner doing the same? And then after that,
Right.
it should be that alone should be able to answer every single question I've ever been asked on those apps. Honestly, every single one. Everyone. Because I think that's what it really stems from. Well, I definitely would like to cover more, I think, on this topic here um, about relationships because I do think that they are important. I think that they're something that touch all of us, and I think it's also going to be some of the best ways that we can grow in the future. And I want to continue to show people more, you know, what it just looks like to have healthy relationships and to feel that in different capacities. So, uh, again, thank you for being here, Kathy. I want to let you tell people where they can find you in case they aren't seeing all of the wonderful links that we've put all over on the video page and on the description here. Where can they find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Oops. Just give me 1 second, Brandon. I'm just responding. Uh, so you can find me through my YouTube channel, Oracle Intuitions. We have the link down below. On my website, same thing under Oracle Intuitions. I think it's 1111, or is it? Oh, Oracle Intuitions. That's my email. Sorry. Oracle Intuitions 1111 is my email. But on Facebook and Instagram as well, all under the same name.
Beautiful. Oracle Intuitions. I think it's such a beautiful description of what you do, your energy, and kind of what you bring to other people. You know, I've seen you work with people, and I appreciate that vibe. Your authentic self, right?
Thank you.
So
Yeah, it's always, I love doing these shows with you.
they're a
I
lot of
do.
fun.
We
I
always have
know,
such a
and
good time.
everything just kind of channels out too, which I always find really interesting. You know, we bring out what's important in the
Yeah.
moment. So again, thank you for being here, Kathy. If you want to get in touch with me, Brandon Hauser, just head on over to thedreamteacher.com. Plain and simple. Everything's there. You can get in touch with me, contact me. I've got some hypnotherapy tracks to download, old radio shows, and plenty of information and stuff to book with me. So head on over to thedreamteacher.com. Again, thank you, Kathy, for being here. Thank you to all the listeners for being here.
Thank you for
We'll be
having
up
me.
again soon. I'm certain. I can feel it. I feel spirit tapping me on my shoulder, saying, "Hey, it's time to be more present." So we will be doing more shows in the future. But thank you for tuning into this one. We look forward to sharing more space with you in the future. All right, be
Take
well,
care.
everyone. Bye bye. As we do the wind down at the end of the stream. Yeah,
I think you're still
we are.
online.